Few things in music are as fascinating to me as a one-hit wonder. I'm pretty sure at this point everyone knows what that means, but on the off chance you never heard it explained and I caught it on cable halfway through and now I gotta watch the whole thing classic, That Thing You Do. One-hit wonder is a term given to musicians who only find commercial success with one singular song. Musicians can spend years just trying to establish themselves, and even getting a single hit song is a major accomplishment. But the idea of being remembered because of one thing you did sounds like it might be a bit of a monkey paw situation. But truly, what I find the most fascinating about one-hit wonders is how seemingly random it is. Look, there are some songs that the minute you heard them, you kinda knew that it was gonna be hard for the musicians to follow up. I mean, how did anyone expect the Light Funky Ones to compose any lyrics that rivaled "Fell Deep in Love, but Now We Ain't Speakin'"? Michael J. Fox was Alex P. Keaton. Not even the wildest lyric in that song, by the way. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel for when I inevitably do a 90-minute video ranking the Summer Girls lyrics by how little sense they make. But while there are songs that seemed almost predestined for one-hit wonderdom, there are a lot of others that had baffling success. Songs that you can't believe not only charted, but charted as high as they did. It's not even because the songs are bad necessarily, but because they seem at odds with what you would think audiences would want. And when I think of bizarre one-hit wonders that captivated the United States for reasons I can never truly grasp, there is a clear winner. Attention class of '98, this is Pop Culture Hyperfixations, and today we're going to learn about the bizarre one-hit wonder, Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen. But before we get into that, today's video is sponsored by KristenSt.Cat.com. Full transparency, I may be a little biased because this is my girlfriend's small business, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the premier destination for dumb stuff made by a shoddy internet artist. And don't get mad at me, that's her quote, not mine. She's got stickers, pens, keychains, and more, and enter the promo code PCH at checkout for 15% off your next purchase. Remember, shop small and shop stupid at KristenSt.Cat.com. Now, back to the video. Our story begins in 1997 with the Australian film director Baz Luhrmann. Luhrmann had first gained global attention with his 1992 debut feature Strictly Ballroom, but it was his sophomore directorial effort Romeo and Juliet that would catapult him into worldwide success. The film, starring a young Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, captivated young audiences. And although I've never seen it because I think I know how it ends, tons of other people did, as the movie grossed over $145 million worldwide. Buoyed by the success of Romeo and Juliet, Baz began working on his new project, a jukebox musical set in 1800s France about the love affair between a writer and a high-class French prostitute that would be titled Smoking Aces. I'm just kidding, it was Moulin Rouge. But given the ambitious nature of the project, Baz first decided that he, along with his assistant Anton Monstead, should attempt to record an album as a warm-up. The album, titled Something for Everybody, featured reimagined versions of songs that he featured in his films, like Time After Time, When Doves Cry, and Love Fool.
Love me, say that you love me, boom me.
Stop.
Go on and boom me.
But on one fateful day as the album was near completion, Anton showed Baz an email he had just received from a friend about a graduation speech that had been delivered in the US. As the director read it, he was moved by the wisdom it dispensed, such as, enjoy the power and beauty of your youth, and be careful whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it. But the piece that hit him closest to home was the opening mission statement, Wear Sunscreen. Luhrmann's father was dying from skin cancer, and the sunscreen advice had touched his heart and sparked inspiration. There was still a little room left on the album, so he wanted to take these beautiful words he had read and put it to music. But he first needed permission from the author. According to the email, the words came from a commencement speech delivered at MIT by legendary author and Rodney Dangerfield co-star Kurt Vonnegut. Baz was delighted, as not only was he a fan of the author, but he was already working on an opera based on the Vonnegut novel Slaughterhouse-Five. He excitedly got in touch with the author's camp to pitch his idea, which is when he learned the shocking news. Kurt Vonnegut didn't write this.
I don't think any of us expected him to say that.
Not only had Vonnegut not wrote it, he wasn't even the commencement speaker at MIT that year. It was United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan. The internet was still relatively new at the time, so people were more susceptible to email hoaxes, and Luhrmann was one of the many people who fell for it, including Vonnegut's own wife. But if Kurt Vonnegut didn't write it, who did? Well, the answer to that question sat halfway around the world in the offices of the Chicago Tribune and her name was Mary Schmich. And seeing as the genesis of this story is about her words being attributed to someone else, why don't we let Mary tell her side of the tale?
I was walking to work, trip to Tribune Tower from my house along Lake Michigan, and I saw a young woman sunbathing. It wasn't even all that warm, May in Chicago. But she was sunbathing, and I just thought, oh my God, I hope she's wearing sunscreen. Because I didn't at that age.
And I just, as I was walking, I thought, it's graduation time, and I have developed this chronic need to tell people in their late teens and 20s what they should be doing. And I thought, well, I could just dress that up as a graduation speech.
So I went to Tribune Tower and I sat down. I got some M&Ms, I got a cappuccino, and just spent the afternoon typing up some thoughts.
So I wrote this column in 1997, and a couple months later,
I got some emails from people saying, something weird just happened to me. So I got like 5 emails on the same morning saying, I just got in my email a copy of Kurt Vonnegut's graduation address at MIT, but I remember reading this in your column. So what's going on? And then when one guy wrote me and it says, it looks like you plagiarized Kurt Vonnegut, I went into full panic mode.
so they were trying to figure out who stole what from whom, right? Because the way people think, there must always be a villain.
Finally, my old colleague Lisa Anderson had a home phone number for Kurt. And I called him up, and he picked up his phone, and I said, my name is Mary Schmich. I write for the Chicago Tribune. We have a little problem. And he said, oh, you wrote that thing.
Nobody ever figured out the identity of the person who added the lie about Vonnegut and MIT to the email, and to this day he is only referred to as Hacker Zero. After he got over the initial shock of the piece's true authorship, Luhrmann still wanted to make the song and contacted Mary, famously telling her, I have an idea for the material. She and the Tribune signed off on his idea for a spoken word track, and he got to work on what would become Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen. The sample of the song would come from a scene in Romeo and Juliet that sees a children's chorus led by Quentin Tarver perform a cover of the 90s dance song Everybody's Free to Feel Good by Rosala. For the spoken word part, he envisioned a voice of gravitas somewhere between Vonnegut and John F. Kennedy, and recruited an Australian voice actor named Lee Perry, whose IMDb is full of a lot of Aussie stuff I've never heard of, except for his role as the bullet farmer in Furiosa. This was such a late addition to the album that the recording process was a bare-bones ordeal in Baz's living room that only took a couple hours. And with that, the song and album were completed and released in Australia in the winter of 1997 without major fanfare. Little did Baz and Mary know just what they had created. Oh, sorry, I probably should have been upfront about this. If you tuned into this video expecting a Todd in the Shadows style analysis of what makes this song good or bad, I'm sorry, but I'm not the guy you want doing this. I mean, my favorite Metallica song is Until It Sleeps. I can't do what Todd does, other than not show my face, but I think it's time to reveal that to the world anyways, so yeah, this is what I look like. Anyways, like I said, the song wasn't receiving any special attention upon its release, and its 7-minute runtime wasn't doing it any favors either. But Luhrmann still believed in the song's message, so in order to get it out there, he agreed to appear on the Australian radio station Triple J if they would play the song as well. To hear Baz tell it, within moments of the song being played, the switchboard went wild, and the song quickly became a massive hit in Australia. When he came to the United States to promote his album in the spring of '98, he adopted the same strategy of appearing on radio stations in exchange for airplay, and word of mouth about this weird motivational spoken word song quickly spread. The song was gaining steam, but the true explosion of its popularity can be directly linked to a DJ out of Portland, Oregon's KNRK, known only as Buzz. To make it more radio friendly, Buzz edited the song from 7 minutes down to 4.5, and that version caught fire. The song quickly became one of the most requested in the country, and program directors across the US said it was the biggest response they had ever received for a song. Even Burt Baumgartner, the senior VP at Capitol Records, told Billboard Magazine, I've been involved with everyone from New Kids on the Block to Mariah Carey, and I don't know if I've ever seen anything explode like this. For whatever reason, the song's sincere advice mixed with the occasional witty remark put over the backing track consisting of a child singing a cover of a 90s dance track took America by storm. Even The Tonight Show with Jay Leno took time off from making hack jokes about Monica Lewinsky's stained dress to fly Lee Perry in for a live performance. And there are a few things that capture the year 1999, quite like the sunscreen guy doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation for Jay Leno while sitting next to Kobe Bryant.
Come on, wear sunscreen. What are you doing? Come on, wear it.
Despite the song's immense penetration into the pop culture landscape, it peaked at number 45 in the US on the Billboard charts. But there was a good reason for it, which is nobody was prepared for this song. The song's popularity certainly caught the record label off guard, who didn't release it as a single until months after the album had come out. In order to listen to the song, you had to either hear it on the radio or buy the Something for Everybody album. And considering enough people bought the album that it went up nearly 100 spots on the charts, I think it's safe to say that it would have at least cracked the top 10 if the single was out there. Even the first music video for it was kinda last minute, as the director of it, Bill Barminski, ended up using his own family's home movies. The song was so briefly entrenched in pop culture that there were countless parodies, ranging from Australian comedian John Safran's Not the Sunscreen song, to American comedian Chris Rock's No Sex in the Champagne Room, to Arlen, Texas's propane and propane accessory salesman Hank Hill's Mow Against the Grain. Even today you can find countless parodies still on YouTube, and I would love to show you them, but unfortunately most of them aren't the most visually compelling. Silly as they may be, those parodies do speak to the legacy of the song, as while it did eventually fade away, it has never truly gone away, as for whatever reason, it is a song that still resonates with people emotionally. Although he did lose his father to skin cancer shortly after filming began, Baz Luhrmann was able to make Moulin Rouge, which became a massive hit. He continues to be a prolific director in Hollywood, although he never did get around to making that Slaughterhouse-5 opera. As for Kurt Vonnegut, his feelings on the whole sunscreen thing seem to alternate between acceptance and annoyance. It's hard to blame him when this ordeal led to insane newspaper headlines like this one from the Philadelphia Daily News that I'm going to admit I am blatantly shoehorning in here. He did have a sense of humor about it though. When he gave his first commencement speech after the initial hoax, he made sure to open it by telling attendees that he'd hoped they put on their sunscreen. Whenever asked, he was always complimentary of Mary Schmich, and the two developed a friendly relationship, with Vonnegut going as far as to surprise her with an award from the American Academy of Dermatology. But he still felt a little weird about the whole thing sometimes, as he told Mary in a letter, "Dearest Mary, we are married whether you like it or not, and we have this dreadful child who in one of 1,000 different disguises likes to yell at me, 'Hey Vonnegut, you wearing sunscreen?'" As for Mary, even though she added Pulitzer Prize winner to her resume in 2012, Wear Sunscreen is still what she's best known for, and she even refers to it as the column that will not die. Nearly 30 years later, and her words still resonate with people, even without a backing track. One of the major tragedies of all this is that she didn't even really earn much money from the song. Because she wrote it for the Tribune, they own the column, and while she did make some royalties from her writing, she didn't get rich on the thing. She continued to work for the Tribune until 2021, when she accepted a buyout and left the paper after 36 years. When I first started the video, I talked about songs that captured the public's imagination for reasons I could never figure out. And maybe you've heard this story and thought, there's got to be a weirder song I could have picked. Maybe I could have written about Pac-Man Fever. Maybe I could have written about Da Da Da. Maybe I could have even written about the United States of whatever. But when it comes to weirdest one-hit wonders, trust me on the sunscreen song. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit subscribe. And let me know in the comments below what you remember about the sunscreen song. Oh, and if you're so inclined to, I do have YouTube memberships open, as well as a Patreon, if you feel like financially supporting my weird deep dives. Links are in the video description. Thanks again for watching.